Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of The Originals. And again, it was another good episode. I really enjoyed it. A lot went down. We had Cammy, who was helping Klaus recover from being stabbed by his brother in last week's episode. And it was really kind of gross when Elijah cut open his chest and dug his hand into it and pulled the knife out. Yuck. But he thought Cammy would be the best person to be there when he wakes up and he's recovering, because she would probably be the one person that he wouldn't want to kill. So when Cammy was there to support him, he was telling her the history that happened back in 1919 when his father showed up. And his father showed up basically 6 months after they had done the spell with the witch from the episode before. And, basically Rebecca and Marcel thought that they were in the clear, that Michael wasn't going to come to New Orleans, and they kind of had let their guard down. And in the meantime, Klaus realized that his sister and Marcel were still hanging out behind his back. So he basically gave them his blessing. And of course, once he does that is when the father shows up. And of course, we had a great scene between Elijah and his father. And he basically said, I will never choose you over my brother. I will always try to defend and protect Klaus. And one of the things that Michael is the driving force behind Michael wanting to kill his own son is the fact that he's half werewolf. And he basically calls him an abomination. And he's always been seen as the black sheep because his wife had an affair with a werewolf, and that is how Klaus was born. And so he's never liked Klaus, and he's always made that very clear. And he even says in this episode that Rebecca was his favorite. So he's on a mission. He's there to kill Klaus, and of course Elijah does everything he can to try to save his siblings, and he's successful. And in the meantime, Michael basically burns down the entire community. Like they were at this opera, and he lights it ablaze, and because basically he compelled everybody in the room to not get up and run for their lives, I guess. And even Michael had this really haunting scene with Klaus where he was basically like, you can try to run, but I'm going to get you, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that to you. And Klaus was like, I don't care what you do, I will at least die knowing that I was able to unite the werewolves, unite the witches, and everybody in this small town, and you didn't have anything to do with it, kind of thing. And he's like, no, don't get it twisted. When I get rid of you, I'm going to get rid of every single person that speaks highly of you, so that there is no memory of you whatsoever in this town. And I was like, yikes. Mr. Michelson means business. So we basically get the end of that. And I mean, I don't really want to spoil anything, but if for many of you who I'm sure have watched the Vampire Diaries, we already know that Michael had shown up on the Vampire Diaries, so we know what happens there, right? So it's unfortunate we probably won't get any more flashbacks, because once Klaus runs away from New Orleans, that's pretty much the last time he's there, until he returns back now to try to take it over from Marcel. So Marcel was in that burning opera house, so everybody thought that he was dead this whole time. And then obviously when they come back to find out that Marcel has been alive and well, and he took over the French Quarter, and he ran the witches, and he basically was the king of the castle in New Orleans. So of course Klaus is still pretty cheesed with his sister, and now he's out for blood, and he has his own like original white oak stake that he's going to use to kill his sister, like dead, not just stake her and put her in a coffin for 100 years, but dead. So he's standing there with his white oak stake, and Elijah's standing there with that crazy blade that Papa Tunde had, and that he stabbed his brother with in last week's episode. And Rebecca's basically, standing there hoping that her brother's not going to kill her. And they all vamp out, and they've all got the crazy eyes, and it cuts to black. So that was kind of awesome with what went down with the Michelson clan in this episode. And then, of course, we had some side stuff going on, and that was with, of course, Miss Sabine, who has been wreaking havoc all over the place. And Elijah basically went to Monique and asked her for her help, and she's like, why would I help you? You want to take down the witches? And he's like, I don't think I think that you have attached yourself to the wrong person. And he's trying to basically say that Sabine is only looking out for herself and she's just going to keep jumping from body to body to body as it suits her. And she's not going to help you guys out with your ultimate plan in the end. And of course, he's right. And then at the end, she does some spell where the next time Sabine dies to jump out of, Celeste, Sabine, la la la, you know what I mean? It's when she goes to jump out of her body, she's going to end up back in the bones that were originally Celeste's to begin with. And that is how they will be able to take her down. So before all this happened, Marcel and Rebecca had come up with this plan to try to lure all the witches in one place at a time so they could kill them all. And I thought that when they did this, he had ripped off one of the ladies' heads. And so I was expecting somebody to rise, but none of the other witches from the sacrifice rose. So when he had taken Davina's body, we were just obviously, let's face it, Davina was the most powerful, baby witch. So obviously the biggest powerful witch, which was Celeste, was going to be the one who would probably have to die. But they never showed who was going to rise as of the other witch dying. So I don't know, is there another witch from the sacrifice that was risen? I don't know, because they didn't really explain that. But obviously once Elijah got a hold of Celeste, and the original Celeste, the one that we saw back in his dreams, who died in the bathtub, he saw her, she started speaking some French tongue, and boom, he stabbed her and killed her. So, of course, now that Marcel has Davina, he took her up to this room, and she woke up. So now Davina's back alive, Marcel has her, and he's like, don't worry, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. That's the last we see of that. And what we saw at the top of the episode was Haley basically kidnapping Celeste / Sabine and telling her she wanted the curse on her werewolf pack taken off. So she did that. And why did she do it? I thought this was brilliant. She did it so that ultimately when Elijah would show up, he would lose Haley either way, because if he denied the fact, if he took away the serum to heal her family, then she would hate him. If she let her family get the serum, then the werewolf that, was basically destined to be with her and was promised from their childhood would come and he would never get her. So either way, he would lose her. So it was kind of like, a nice little scene that they had when he kissed her on the forehead and he basically was wishing her well because he ultimately knows that he's not going to end up being with her. And so she and her little werewolf, who's been keeping his eye out on her, roll off into the woods so that when the next full moon comes, she's going to give it to her ancestors. They're going to drink it. Then they will no longer be cursed and they will only turn on a full moon. That's that. So pretty good episode. We had, a little bit of stuff going on with Cammie. And of course, she was the one who was hearing all the information that from Klaus in this episode. But she really couldn't do anything because, let's face it, as soon as Klaus got stronger, boom, he took off. And that was pretty much the end of that. But, it's interesting to see that dynamic between the Klaus and Rebecca and Elijah. They're always going to be family. So this whole vendetta against one another is just a little bit silly because we know that he's not going to really kill his sister. And I'm just waiting for the next big bad to show up in town that's going to distract him from this vendetta that he has now against his sister and Marcel. So hopefully that comes soon because I like these three together and working as a team and not against one another. So let me know what you thought of this episode and leave a comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye guys.